today we are going to look at specifically 2 areas within teacher education that covers, we tried our best to also capture adult education too. So for us today, the session which I'm going to lead will be on how lifelong learning concept and some of the issues of lifelong learning are integrated into initial teacher education. We'll be going to, some of our sessions may actually already start, I mean, some of the speakers will already start of the concept of lifelong learning from a continuum. So you will hear references to not just initial teacher education, but also continuing professional development. And that's what we are also hoping to have in the discussions. But I'm very happy to have 5 speakers, heavy session, the most heaviest session of the agenda. So I would like to request our 5 speakers to be short, and then so that we can have interaction at the end of this session. So the first one is with Iveta Silova, and Iveta is going to speak about teacher education in the 21st century, some of the reflections she has as a researcher and scholar in the area of initial teacher education, but from a comparative perspective. Thank you. 10 minutes, yeah?
Okay, thank you. And actually, I wanted to focus today more on the experience of Arizona State University and Teachers College in particular. And maybe situate Arizona's College of Education in a broader context of our university, and wanted to start with our charter, which talks about how ASU is a comprehensive public research university measured not by whom it excludes, but whom it includes and how they succeed, advancing research and discovery of public value, and assuming fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, cultural, and overall health of the communities it serves. So this charter actually is very central to the role of the university and also affects every single college and school at the university, including Teachers College. So that basically means that as Teachers College, we have to figure out how to make the teaching profession also, or the training of teachers also, as accessible as possible to the members of the community, and how also the teaching profession is linked to solving the problems in our community and also thinking about the broader well-being of the planet. And so again, there is a really interesting intersection with sustainability, because planetary well-being and sustainability is actually is incorporated into the charter as well. And on the right side here on the slide, I wanted to show how the sustainability requirement is already embedded throughout curriculum in all of the colleges, whether it's education or art or engineering or something else. So it's embedded within the system already. And the idea of lifelong learning is also mainstreamed throughout. So in addition to the academic degree programs, there are also very many what we call learning enterprise experiences, where the same content or similar content is also available to learners of all ages in different formats. But moving really quickly to Teachers College, so just in the last couple of years, we tried to also redefine the vision and the mission of the Teachers College and identified these areas as central to the mission of the college, including activating learner-centered education, leading dynamic learning systems, catalyzing technology for learning, and I wanted specifically to highlight cultivating sustainable global futures for education, which is very explicitly linked to the mission of the college right now. And we are planning to do it also at multiple levels of education, trying to activate multiple levels of transformation. So educator practice, targeting teachers and other schools and organizations, leadership practice, systemic performance, looking at the large system leaders, policymakers, government officials, and knowledge and research. So also working with scholars and practitioners across all of these different domains. But, so this is what I wanted to focus on quickly to maybe finalize my work. So what this means for teacher preparation programs is that we are also trying to rethink this traditional model of teacher preparation that is focused on a single teacher, future teacher that moves in cohorts with others, right, through lock-stop training. So we're trying to break it up a little bit. And so these are kind of a few of the, an outline of how we are trying to do some of the principles. So one is moving from tradition to team-based vision of preparation. So the traditional teacher must be prepared in the same way, as I mentioned yesterday, to be all things to all learners. However, that job is really no longer humanly possible because teachers are diverse and they come with different experiences, different strengths, they have different interests. So the vision is to create a new education workforce that takes into account the needs of all learners, the strengths of teachers, and the design of learning environments that are conducive to both. So we are trying to shift, to reconfigure our programs to prepare teachers to work in teams in multiple levels. So then the second one is a shift from recruitment and retention to thinking maybe if we need to think about the redesign of the workforce, of the profession itself. So for many years, the solution to the shortage of teachers has been to focus on recruitment and retention, but workforce design has not been really addressed. So we are trying to think how roles of teachers may allow the school to understand how different roles can impact learners and the best way that different goals can be achieved. So it helps us to answer who are we recruiting and for which learners. And this kind of rethinking the workforce design enables a breakdown of the current workforce analysis to support an optimal mix of talent to address the needs of learners. So kind of thinking actually to expand the idea of the teacher to a broader conception of educator that may include multiple roles. Then the third one is a shift from content delivery to transformational and deeper learning. Teaching can no longer be transmission of content alone. We need what we call high-tech touch strategies. Knowledge and content are everywhere. Technologies that supports learning of basic skills and deeper learning, and technologies who can support learners when they get stuck, need extra help, or just need to move faster. So professional educator then needs to become a learning facilitator, maybe a guide, a coach, supporting inquiry, and the expansion of learning that aligns with learner interest and experience. We are also trying to think how can we be less rigid and more flexible and accessible to different learners. So traditionally we focused on content, then clinical practice in a short burst of weeks. And we often say no to students if they do not fit into this model. So we are trying to be more flexible, more accessible, and at the same time transform the structures and the systems. So we are trying to say yes to multiple entry points into the profession, flexibility of modality of the delivery, paid experiences that count as career pathways and maybe take less time to completion, blended content and experiences, personal support from student services, modular design, flexible scheduling, ability to accelerate and decelerate based on what the students are facing, and just be more responsive to the everyday, very complex and difficult lives often of the students. Then the next one is a shift from student teaching to authentic job embedded experiences. So usually student teaching is a job that is done basically for students for free in schools. We are trying actually to allow opportunities for students to team with teachers and be treated as teacher assistants, right? And also become paid for it. So experimenting with some school districts, how maybe also when students enter the student practice, they become colleagues almost immediately with teachers, right? Rather than learners. Then another shift is from content keepers to content liberators. So in order to design this new educator workforce, we need to liberate the content to create a wide variety of educator roles, specializations, advancement opportunities, and we also want to liberate it from prerequisites, 3-hour credit blocks, so lockstep in programs with very specific requirements. So think about content that is more accessible to those who want to be educators in new and different ways in learning environments that might be schools, but could be so many other places. So educators in various learning environments may need different kind of almost content packages of preparation. Then next one is a shift from technology infused to technology for possibilities. Basically, thinking that there is a lot technology can do to help us build new systems for education preparation and partnerships. So we're trying to experiment with technology to teach, guide, and coach, to power teams, to power systems, to power networks. And we just entered into a new collaboration with OpenAI at ASU. So it will be interesting to see how that will affect also teacher preparation programs. I'm not quite sure how that will go. Then the next one is a shift from the transactional partnership to multilateral partnerships. And so this is what I mentioned already earlier. We are trying to also develop maybe new types of partnerships with schools, and to open greater number of pathways for entry, specialization, and advancement for education professionals. We are also working strategically with partner schools to think about staffing models and creating teams, structures like space, schedules, and times, use of technology to help personalize and deepen learning and design new processes for student success. Also think about how we can help teachers be not only instructional leaders, but also systems leaders and contribute to broader transformations. And move away from projects, programs, and activities to more systems and structural changes, also through our teacher preparation programs. So a deep understanding of how policies and systems incentivize or inhibit positive innovations in instructional practice, leadership practice in schools, and other learning environments. And it includes both government policies and other systems and structures. So it's important that we embrace this idea that education is implicated in the multiple crises we face, and that teachers and teacher preparation programs also have to play a critical role in reimagining and reconfiguring education in ways that respond to today's challenges by activating this cultural shift towards more open and flexible pathways for becoming a teacher by responding to the planetary sustainability challenges, and at the same time really trying to elevate the teaching profession. And that's it.
I'm
very worried about
Sorry. Seriously. Thank you so much for being very timely. Thank you. I think Iveta has started already with some of the very interesting reflections in terms of rethinking preparation of teachers from the initial teacher education part, but also already reflecting some of the dispositions, which we're talking about, lifelong learning dispositions, already into the system, because that's where the crack of the story starts with the preparation. How are we preparing our teachers to become lifelong learners, but also enablers of lifelong learners? I think when you are a lifelong learner, I'm sure that you will be able to practice it in the classroom. Without further ado, I'm going to go to the next speaker. Next speaker is Miss Yuan from the Shanghai Normal University, our wonderful partner here and host, and the great partner on the research on teachers as lifelong learners. You also have, Miss Yuan, 10 minutes. Yeah? Thank you. Sorry. Iveta.
Before I start my presentations, I still would like to use my 10 minutes to express my warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for visiting us and joining us and to make your excellent contributions on our workshops. My giving topic is training teachers for lifelong learning system in China. You know, yesterday I was interviewed by a news report, and one of the questions is about why our university, as a normal university, interested in this topic, teaching as a lifelong learning. And my answer is because we are in a very rapid development societies. The change is so fast, you can see it's the swift acquisition of knowledge, and you can see the speed is that goes faster and faster, and also you can see and the dynamic evolution of societies. The education should affect changes rather than adapt to changes passively. So that's why we should pay more attention on teachers as a lifelong learning. I say this, it's still too late for us to concern about these topics, teachers' lifelong learning. But it's never too late to start discussing this topic. These two persons, you know very well, Paul Langlans, in 1970s, he have a definition about the teachers. Teachers should cease to be mere transmissions of knowledge, but expert in nurturing individuality. And Andrew Slatches, yesterday he gave us a presentation. Also, he say that last years, after 2022 PISA results published, he said, let me see, the teachers not only serve as exceptional guiders, but also excellent coaches, mentors, and architects of an innovative learning environment. So, I mean, between 50 years, we can see teachers, their task is not changes. They cultivate our next generation's individual characteristics and their creativities. And if you remember yesterday's, I can't remember whose, but you can see our educations at 10 years level and 15 years level, compared to these 2 years levels, their creativity is become weak because of maybe education, I don't know. And also from another presentations that we saw, the CO2 emission is increased with educating level raised. So these are programs, these are questions that we have seen, we have met. How can our teachers do to solve, to be a kind of force, to solve, to meet that kind of challenge? And in China, teacher training in China, we have a very inclusive systems that any indicator that with a bachelor degrees or higher maybe can be a teacher. And the main force in China, the teacher provider is the 2007 Normal Universities. They provide almost over 50% of teachers in different regions. But after they go into the teacher areas, we have a very systematic training systems. And you have learned that from yesterday's presentation. Mr. Professor Zhang Mingxuan and Professor Fan Guorui also give you detailed information, so I just quick. As a normal universities, how we conduct the per service teachers' educations, these 5 core competence or literature is our key point. Teachers' ethics, interdisciplinary competence, digital competence, global competence, creativity, and initiatives. These 4 core competence is a key point for us to cultivate per-service teachers. And how we implement this, we designed these logical routines from core competence to experiment project to curriculum to model learnings and to sanctification training. Just as Iveta mentioned, we hope to put some job-embedded trainings in our per-service training. And when to be in-service trainings in China, we also focus another 4 core competence, the identity recognition, the pedagogical knowledges, the practical knowledges, the professional realizations, and based on 2 basic demands. The one is professional standard. We have a national standard, a local standard, regional standard. And the other, I think, is really very important, is individual development. So basically, these 2 principles and follow these core competence, we have these 5 many training content based on that 5 contents. And yesterday we have noticed we have a global shortage of teachers. And the question is, teachers carry enormous burdens. If you remember the pictures that Fulton yesterday gave us, there was a very big, huge bag. And the teachers has becoming an unattractive profession. Do we need to add another work for teachers? I said yes. Lifelong learning should be a teacher's basic abilities. If a teacher is not a lifelong learner, they can't be a good teacher. So, teacher as a lifelong learner is our topic of this workshop. We're still in discussion with this topic. It's really a challenge for us to give a clear description about teacher as a lifelong learners. But I think the 4 dimensions we should discuss is the concept or idea, attitude, competence, and actions. As a teachers, they have lifelong learning, have a concept of lifelong learning. I think they also have a right, correct attitudes towards lifelong learning. But how can we give our good teachers a lifelong learning competence? How can we make our teachers go further with their own step to be a lifelong learning? I think we should focus on these questions and go on our discussions. And I look forward to see the outcomes of our project. And I think, when our project finished 2 years later, maybe we can give our answer to the world, to the teaching educations in different countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yuan, for being prompt with the time. And we go to the next speaker, and then we have time for question and answers. The next speaker is Douglas. Thank you, Douglas, for taking 10 minutes. And I'll stand up when you're done. Yeah. Okay.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. And I was very happy that yesterday what was validated was that an enthusiastic teacher is a teacher that gets brilliant results. So I'm going to try and be as enthusiastic as possible today in my presentation. Now, Professor Day yesterday spoke about the meso level, the micro level, the macro level. What I'm going to present today is a conversation about our chair's work at the meso and the micro level. And just one of the driving forces of our chair at Wits University is our partnership, our global partnership map. And what we've done over the years is we've developed partnerships with different universities and scholars on all the continents except Antarctica. So basically what we use this for is to drive our themes and our research. So on each of these continents, with our partners, we have many seminars and webinars. If a researcher is, say, preparing a paper for publication, or they've published something and they'd like to disseminate their findings, what we do then is we set up webinars, we get all the partners to come together to discuss those findings, so that we really bring an international flair to our conversations. It also allows young emerging scholars to interact with a broader community of more experienced scholars. And what we do is we use these partnerships to drive our 5 themes. And for this specific conference, it's all about our theme 2. Now, I know it's not best etiquette to read a presentation slide, but I want to go through this one with you because this is our understanding of professional development and lifelong learning for teachers. So this theme focuses on the multiple aspects of becoming a teacher, not just, say, on their subject knowledge or certain proficiencies, but it's about everything, that holistic part about being a teacher, the cognitive, the professional, the physical, and the ethical dimensions of education. It considers the challenges of learning to teach and opportunities for teachers to develop their professional knowledge and their identity. We feel that is so important, that teachers have an identity of being a teacher, not just being a professional who teaches a subject, and to assist them in how to navigate through their life as a professional. We feel that is also important. Teachers' learning is explored in various settings, from formal and coursework interactions with various educators and learning through classroom life. I'll speak a little bit more about that later. But just to play in on yesterday what Max was talking about with the literature review. So what we do is, when we network with our partners, every partner around the world, when they contribute a study, or they publish something and it fits with one of the themes, what we then do is we publish these themes within our website, almost like a repository. So under this theme, we've got many papers from around the world and on the African continent that deal with issues of lifelong learning. What's going on in classrooms, what's going on between schools and at broader levels. And then we have this repository that's then open to the world to look at. And I possibly suggest, Max, have a look at what we've got in the repository, because you might find a lot of research on the African continent or from other places in the world that you might want to incorporate into your work. This is just a bit of a signpost slide. I'm not going to really go through it, but it does look at Development Goal 4. But what I really want to talk about is a specific African or South African contextual issue. And we have to remember that as we prepare something globally, every country has their own contextual realities they need to work through. And there's 2 issues in South Africa that are quite unique. When South Africa emerged out of apartheid in the early 1990s, because of racial segregation, there was almost an insidious and forced process of developing different streams of education. So white teachers were given high-quality training, and a lot of funding from the government was put into their education, whereas black teachers, and to a lesser extent Indian teachers, received inferior training and inferior qualifications, sometimes only a 2-year qualification to be a teacher. And they were then trained to teach an inferior curriculum that was designed to produce only a menial labor force. Now, as apartheid ended, suddenly, literally overnight, you had one teaching body. And the majority of those teachers were very undertrained. But now here's a problem. These teachers are in their 30s and 40s and 50s. How do you just bring them back to university? You've got to think about lifelong learning and in-service training for this cohort of teachers. And it's much like COVID thrust us into the scenario where suddenly we had to come up with ideas of using technology for teaching. In the early 90s, South Africa had to suddenly come up with solutions to upskill these teachers who had these inferior qualifications. All types of initiatives were brought in, recognition of prior learning, opportunities for teachers to do short courses or night school to up their accreditations. But that's in the past now. That problem is mostly solved because that cohort of teachers has moved through the system. But we've got another major problem in South Africa. 50% of our teachers, this is a scary thing, 50% are trained through one institution. It's a correspondence university. It's called UNISA. It's one of the biggest universities in the world. But this means that 50% of your teachers get a correspondence degree with virtually no pedagogical instruction in their 4-year degree. So when they enter the classroom, they've had virtually no training on how to be a teacher. So this group of teachers desperately need in-service education. So that's just to contextually ground today's presentation in some of the realities of what South Africa faces. That's all I wanted to really focus on that one. But now, I'm just going to flip through because you've used the longer presentation, and I only want to focus on certain slides. I did send 2. I'm not going to move on from the national because today I'm at that micro level. But I want to talk about what we do with our chair at Wits University and how we try to impact education across the board. Firstly, at a formal level, we're very involved in looking at the curriculum design that our lecturers are using to develop their postgraduate qualifications or to work on the undergraduate programs. I know that from our network, a lot of our webinars or papers that we receive will often try and take contemporary new things and build that into our curricula that we use to train teachers. But then I really want to focus on the non-formal and the informal. The non-formal we kind of categorize as we discussed yesterday. My colleague from South Africa spoke about CPD training or courses that teachers can do that they can access in their lives and develop almost a professional portfolio. But more than that, on an informal level, we're faced with 2 challenges. When do we get the teacher's voice? When do we look at collaborations that teachers have with themselves as professionals? So we focus heavily on what's going on in schools. How can we provide training that's not top-down, walking into a space, telling people what to do, but how can we get them to work with their own knowledge? And something that we've been looking at recently, and I'm a little bit of a chat scholar working in cultural historical activity theory space, and we've been pioneering Engestrom's Change Laboratory. So and the Change Laboratory does 2 things. First of all, it offers what we call sustainability within the informal space. Because haven't we all seen it before? We go in, we run a workshop for teachers, everybody gets excited, there's nice tea and coffee and food, it all happens on a Friday. By Monday morning, everybody's forgotten what was presented. And everybody ticks their box that they've done lifelong learning or teacher development, but we need sustainability. And what Change Laboratory does is two things, because Change Laboratories are iterative and they cyclic in their development of what it is to train. So you run a series of these that might run over the course of a year. And every time you have a Change Laboratory, your teachers and your leaders will come together with their own contextual knowledge. And then you will bring in other knowledge, and teachers are then able to work through these ideas and come up with their own contextually relevant solutions that they can apply within their contexts. And then come back in another Change Laboratory and work on and discuss the effectiveness of their intervention, taking maybe curricular knowledge and their own ideas, and in so ways you've got these expansive learning cycles. And I just want to just quickly emphasize, I know I'm running out of time, but if you can give me a minute, I just want to talk a little bit about some of our other work. So I've mentioned there our collaboration with our partners and other university chairs. What we also like to do is, and we've already started this, is we host other universities from around the world. Last year we had Michigan State joined us. They brought 19 PhD students and their supervisors, and then we matched them up with a similar cohort, and they had a mini seminar where everybody was able to present their work on lifelong learning. We've also, at the moment, we're busy with a research partnership between South Africa and Rwanda, where we're looking at what does professional or lifelong learning look like in our schools compared to what's happening in Rwandan schools. So that's the one focus. And the last slide I want to discuss quickly, briefly, is we're of the opinion that an understanding, or for teachers and leaders to be effective in their space and to be effective at taking on ideas of lifelong learning, to what degree do they have an understanding of the complexities of the environment in which they work in? Do they have a narrow view, which would then lead them to be quite conservative or just focus on being efficient in their space? Or do they have a broader understanding of complexity, which would then allow them to be transformative in their space? And if you go back to the work of Alan Daly, who looked at the establishment of networks, what we're finding is that teachers and school principals who actively promote networking within their environment and deepen their networks and their connections with other schools, service providers, and the greater community, those teachers naturally develop themselves and are then able to provide better education for their children. And something I've always believed, if teachers value lifelong learning and their own development and they're conscious of it, it rubs off on children. And then children start to see the value of that school is not the end point. And we might not see students tearing up their books and throwing them out the window, but they might see schooling as one step in their journey as human beings. So that is my message. There's there's more slides, but I haven't got time to go into those. But in a nutshell, what we are trying to do in South Africa, what we're trying to do as a chair, is to get down into the coalface of education, to work with teachers in their schools, and to understand that the contextual reality of one teacher in their environment is different to others. So how can we find programs? How can we find the own teachers' voices in a way that is sustainable for the education for all and lifelong learning? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Douglas.
Oh, and one more thing.
Yes?
I brought these little booklets of our chair. Maybe we could pass them around. But what's quite nice is there's a QR code. It'll take you to our website, and you'll be able to look at all the publications that are under the different themes. So if you go to theme 2, you'll be able to then see what we've been accumulating around this field. And it just gives you a little bit more information about it.
Thank you so much. I think we have heard quite a lot in terms of the chair's work, in terms of the knowledge base that you are building in the area, and we'd love to look at it. I have already started looking at it, majority of the publications. And the next speaker is Yuri Belfali, and she's from OECD, a colleague. She is going to look at very specifically one of the reports that is global on teachers. And Yuri, you also have 10 minutes. Sorry, I'll get up there when time is up. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. So through this presentation, I would like to contribute to the data-driven discussion on teachers as lifelong learners. And I use the latest available data from OECD's teachers survey that I'm leading. Yesterday, I couldn't join, and sorry if there's some overlap with what Andreas said. He's always traveling, I'm always traveling, so I don't see him very often. So, and with this limited time, I will focus on the continuous professional development of teachers today. When we asked teachers and school leaders whether they had opportunities to participate in professional development activities, good news is that 90% of them said that they indeed had an opportunity to do so. But if you look at the difference between countries, you can see that some countries like Lithuania or Shanghai in China also participated in the survey, or Australia. It's almost universal. Whereas other countries such as France or Saudi Arabia, they still have way to go to offer opportunities for professional development to all teachers and leaders. But what kind of activities they are participating in? 70% of teachers said that they participated in the kind of activities such as formal courses or seminars and conferences. So quite, I would say, traditional way of receiving the knowledge and updating what they understand. On the other hand, much less share of teachers, 44%, said that they participated in activities such as observation, coaching, so more job-embedded practices. And as Iveta mentioned, this should be also part of the professional development, but also research shows that job-embedded practice-based activities also contribute well to the development of not only knowledge, but also teachers' sense of self-efficacy, motivations, and many other important dimensions for their development. Some more details. So as I mentioned, courses, reading, literature, conferences are mostly common in many countries, and other activities like online courses, participation in a network or coaching, lower share of teachers participate in. However, you see the red bars. As I am in Shanghai, I picked up the data from Shanghai. Teachers here are also participating actively in other type of professional development activities. So certain countries are having quite balanced range of activities, whereas other countries are more focusing on non-job situated activities. Teacher professional development is not only to offer learning opportunities, but also TALIS study showed that the participation of teachers in professional development is also related to their job satisfaction. So we said that teachers are busy, they have many burdens on their shoulders, and sometimes we wonder whether adding more professional activities would be even additional burden. But actually, the fact that they engage in the continuous learning make them probably more satisfied in their job and more rewarding, and we acknowledge them as a knowledge specialist. So this is an important dimension. Then, it is also important to understand if they are not participating in, what are the barriers? Of course, this depends on countries, but on average, we can see that some major constraints are the conflict with teachers' work schedule, they are just busy, or lack of incentives, or lack of resources, but also something which is really, really concerning is that 38% of teachers on average say that there's no relevant professional development offered. So there are opportunities offered, but they believe it's not helpful or relevant for their teaching every day. So something to do with the design content of the offer of teacher professional development. And also characteristics of effective professional development. When we ask teachers what kind of professional development are impactful for their teaching, so it's their self-perception, but it's important to understand that. Then, indeed, they said that some content-focused or activity-oriented professional development opportunities are indeed impactful for their teaching. And actually, they said that school-embedded training, such as something happening within schools, so blue bars in the bottom, or involving colleagues from the schools, they don't feel that it's impactful, whereas research says that there's an important effect of this kind of professional development activities. So there's a gap between what we know from research and how teachers perceive different type of activities. And finally, we need to also understand what kind of content included in teacher professional development across countries. So you can see on the upper side, knowledge of the subject matters or pedagogical competencies, assessment curriculum. These are well covered in many countries, and particularly in the case of Shanghai, it's highly covered. Whereas when you look at the bottom lines, such as communicating with people from different cultures, so diversity, inclusiveness, multicultural, multilingualism, or school management, teacher-parent relationship, these are less covered in their professional development, whereas this is also becoming an emergent issues for teachers and schools to deal with. So these are just some key highlights from the latest data, which is a bit outdated, but now countries are going to ask questions to the teachers. And next year, in 2025, you have the up-to-date data from teachers around more than 40 countries. So I know that you are researchers, you are the leaders of the teacher training institutions, so please look at the new data next year and analyze and find what is new, what is still the same. I want to conclude with two messages. For the next TALIS data that you will see in 2025, we have also additional data. One is how teachers are considering sustainable development issues in their teaching, because sustainable development is the matter of everybody. And if we want to care about, as you mentioned, the planetary health and sustainable development, teachers, regardless of their subject of teaching, have to be aware of and embed in their daily practices to prepare themselves and their students to thrive and build a future society. Second, we also included questions to understand how teachers are addressing the social-emotional learning of children. This is also an important topic. Then we also inserted at the last minute a question about the use of AI by teachers. And this will be probably the first internationally comparable data of teachers with relation to the use of AI. So I'm very curious how researchers would react on this data. And the very final comment, what we need to further discuss when we talk about teachers as lifelong learners, but also teachers as enablers of students' lifelong learning, and what we are not necessarily seeing enough in research and international work. One is teacher agency. Somebody already mentioned, but for lifelong learning, teachers need to have strong agency by themselves to design their own learning. They shouldn't wait for the opportunities of professional development to be given to them. They have to build their own learning pathways. So that's one. Second is teachers' own social-emotional skills. How you can expect students to develop creativity if teachers are not creative? How you can expect students to be empathetic if teachers don't know what empathy is about? So this is another area where we need more research and more discussion. Thank you very much.
So we go very quickly to the next speaker who is joining us online, and then we will open up for the question and answer some of the reflections that we heard from the presenters today. So is Manuela online? Manuela is going to join us from Europe as well, from Ireland. Manuela, can we have her? Hello, Manuela.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you so well. So, Manuela, we have been reflecting. I don't know whether you are following us online since morning.
Yes, I have heard the very interesting presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Manuela, you have also 10 minutes. And I don't know, I will just take up the mic to inform you about your time, yeah? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to join you this morning from the west coast of Ireland, and a little bit sad I can't be with you in person. Thank you for the organisers of the research workshop for inviting me. So I will discuss the integration of strong equity and inclusion in teacher education from a lifelong learning perspective. And I want to start with a brief explanation of the phrase strong equity. This concept I borrowed from Cochrane Smith and Stringer Keefe's recent article, Strong Equity, Repositioning Teacher Education for Social Change. The authors distinguish between thin and strong equity, borrowing language from Barber's distinction between thin and strong democracy. Thin equity assumes that equity pertains to individuals' access to educational resources. Strong equity, on the contrary, acknowledges the complex and intersecting historical, economic, and social systems that create inequalities. So in my work, I'm interested in developing strong equity in and through teacher education. With limited time, I will address 5 key questions: why, what, who, where, and when, to guide our thinking on preparing teachers to teach and support all students. In my view, the question of why is central. Teacher education for equity needs to build a strong rationale for equity and inclusion as a foundation for any concrete practical work. This means that we need to continually work towards understanding, valuing, and thinking critically about equity issues with teachers. What we see on this slide are core components involved in this ongoing process. We must work towards understanding the complex and intersecting historical, systemic, and social systems that create inequities and ask questions about how various groups came to be advantaged or disadvantaged in the first place. Next, we need to hear, recognize, and engage with the diverse experiences of minoritized groups. Recognizing these experiences and unique challenges is crucial, as it highlights the role of education in promoting social justice. All this work is really difficult work. And for many student teachers and practicing teachers and teacher educators, there are many very uncomfortable truths to grapple with and digest. The deep engagement, interrogation, and confrontation with issues related to privilege, power, and education's role in perpetuating inequalities is extremely challenging. However, this is what we need to promote in teacher education if we want to see real change, because real change requires a significant reframing of powerful assumptions and dominant ideologies. Understanding, recognizing, and reframing will ultimately then hopefully trigger transformation in thinking and a shift in mindset. Latson Billungs already argued nearly 20 years ago that teachers' problem in working with a diverse group of students are rooted in their belief that effective teaching is about what to do, when the real problem is rooted in how we think. Doing is intrinsically linked with thinking and being, because attitudes about students are always manifested in instructional practices. Let's now focus on the what. We aim to empower teachers who conscientiously notice, take action, and reflect on equity and inclusion in their professional practice. What texts or content should students engage with, and what are effective pedagogical approaches? In our initial teacher education programs, we seek to engage student teachers in critical discussions about theoretical perspectives from philosophy, sociology, psychology, and the history of education. We critically evaluate curricula and education policies through an equity lens, taking into account national and local contextual factors impacting students. Inclusive education, particularly universal design for learning, offers valuable insights into this growing field. Given the complexity of equity issues, supported reflective practice is crucial, and a number of speakers have spoken about this. And recent efforts focus on engaging teachers in professional conversations, collaborative inquiry, and practitioner research. The who in teacher education for equity is also crucial. Teacher diversity has been a core research interest of mine, so please let me summarize in a nutshell some key arguments of my work. Who the teachers are matters. It is absolutely vital to prepare all teachers to teach all students, but it is also crucial that we ensure that our teaching profession better reflects societal diversity. A diverse teaching staff can positively influence the psychological, social, and pedagogical dimensions of learning environments, promoting stronger equity. Research has shown that teachers from underrepresented groups bring invaluable cultural insights and social justice-oriented dispositions to their work. Their first-hand experiences of challenges faced by minority group students can foster deeper understanding and more attuned mentorship. A diverse teaching staff exposes students to various in-group and out-group members in positive roles. Interactions with teachers from minority group backgrounds can challenge perceptions of power and inferiority, fostering greater cognitive flexibility and changing how students engage with others. Borges explores pedagogical cultural identity, showing how teachers embed their cultural knowledge and experiences into teaching. This integration centers marginalized voices and challenges dominant pedagogical processes. Research also shows that teachers from underrepresented groups are more likely to identify structural inequities and discuss educators' responsibilities in addressing these. Their unique insights and voices can be transformative for teacher education. So we therefore need to support diverse teachers through their careers. Diversifying the profession is not a panacea, of course. Increased representation alone is insufficient. Some studies indeed have reported worrisome experiences of educators from underrepresented groups, including racial tokenism, essentialization, high stress levels, and difficulties fitting into normative majority cultures. In my work, I therefore call for ethical approaches to teacher diversity. Equity and inclusion for teachers from minoritized backgrounds are intrinsically linked with equity for students. To shape equitable learning environments, teachers from minoritized backgrounds must be empowered to be authentically present in schools, open about their intersecting identities, and fully engaged with the school community. When considering the who, it is essential to highlight recent developments that advocate for more collaborative, team-based approaches to teaching and learning involving multidisciplinary teams. Additionally, there's a growing emphasis on amplifying student voices in decision-making and learning processes. And these evolving educational approaches necessitate teachers to cultivate strong interpersonal and collaboration skills. Where should we prepare, support, and enable teachers to implement equitable education practices? This question has sparked much debate in academic and policy circles, and opinions are often divided. While I can't cover all perspectives today, I want to emphasize that multiple learning and practice sites are crucial to our goal. Connecting the academic and practical components of teacher education programs is an enduring issue, and collaboration between teacher education institutes and placement settings is essential. Non-formal in education settings can provide different contexts for practicing inclusive education, enriching teachers' understanding and adaptability. Engaging with wider communities can help teachers understand and address local needs, fostering a deeper connection between schools and the communities they serve. And learning and practicing in indoor, outdoor, and virtual spaces each offer unique opportunities, and an international dimension can help to broaden teachers' perspectives and expose them to diverse educational practices. And finally, when does teacher education for equity and inclusion begin and end? Well, the truth, as everybody here will agree, is it doesn't. It is a lifelong journey. On this journey, teachers require ongoing support from educational institutions, peers, and the broader community, as well as diverse and meaningful experiences in various educational settings. Regular opportunities for reflection are crucial, as is commitment to personal and professional growth. Ultimately, if we can provide a solid foundation and dedication to the principles of equity and inclusion during initial teacher education and ensure that these values remain at the heart of teachers' noticing, acting, and reflecting, we can be hopeful that teacher education will not only prepare educators for immediate challenges of the classroom, but also support their ongoing development as advocates for equitable and inclusive education through their careers. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to an interesting discussion.